Oh, hi, everybody.
You know, I almost forgot to hit the go live broadcast button again, but I didn't
Yeah,
this
but that's
time.
all right. I took
Good
care of that.
evening. Yeah. Good evening. Welcome to episode 28 of Lawfully Chaotic. With my extra special awesome co-host, Jason Baldrick of TTRPG Academy and Sharon Smith, Barry Bot. Tonight we're going to talk about long campaigns, and we'll also talk about what a long campaign is, in everybody's opinion, and how that can facilitate both player and character growth over time. But before we do that, let's anybody have any announcements? Sharon, you got any announcements? Yeah.
No,
It's been a long
I do
week.
not. However, I do have something to share with you guys that I saw that was really, really, really cool.
Cool.
So
What is it?
I will drop it in the Discord.
You have this awesome prismatic aura around you. It's like you have a shield spell or mage armor cast or something.
That's her
awesome.
godlike structure.
Yeah, I love it.
I am hopelessly addicted to Midjourney. I'll talk about that later, but oh my god, some of the things that you can make with it. My budget for thumbnail art and other things have improved tremendously courtesy of this thing. So I'm just too small of a creator to be able to afford 24/7 creator art. You know what I mean? Like if I reach out for design or something like that, sure. But I don't know.
Let's talk about that.
Well, you know what? Artwork and the artwork community. I think that'd be another good episode that we could talk about. Yeah.
There you go. All right, Sharon, what do you have to share?
With us?
Okay. Drum roll. Okay, I dropped it in the Discord. Please share it with the rest of the lovely viewers and listeners.
Oh my god. Hold on.
This is amazing. I tried to search for the creator of this awesome thing. I can't find him. Chat, if you know who made this awesome piece of landscape monstrosity, please let us know.
Hang on. I'm working on it here. Hold.
The wait is worth it.
The wait is worth it. So, oh my gosh. Cool. This is freaking crazy. All right, sorry, I apologize, guys. Hold on. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. We need a production person.
There it is.
That is freaking. That's freaking unbelievable.
Look at this, guys. This is a moving giant zombie dungeon.
Oh my god.
Look how tiny the minis are compared.
That's pretty cool.
That is fucking cool.
How did that search come up?
My friend sent it to me, and I tried to do a backwards image search for it, and I couldn't find who created this magnificent monstrosity. It looks so cool.
Oh my god.
Maybe it was a custom. I'm not sure.
That's awesome. I'm gonna look and see if I could find that STL somewhere.
It totally gives me like Shadow of the Colossus vibes. Is what I'm getting from it.
That's freaking. Also, it's got a little bit of like a Baba Yaga walking hut.
Zombie with buildings.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
Zombie building giant thing.
Wow, that's awesome. Very cool. We're gonna have to find the source of that.
Yeah, we gotta figure out who made that because
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Jason, do you have any show and tell? Ooh, new segment. Jace, you you got any announcements from you?
I'm hopefully going to be working on table number 10 of my pay-to-play catalog.
Whoa.
It's actually going to be an homage to the Keep on the Borderland. I'm going to do a homebrew version of the Keep on the Borderland and kind of do a very kind of, I was thinking of doing a low fantasy backdrop without the high fantasy expectation, and kind of delve into the low fantasy medieval politic of, you know, monarchs and stuff like that, and create this very kind of super enriched kind of scheming plot where you think you know what the answers are, and every time there's an arc, it completely shocks, you know, the whole plot line. So I've been working on that.
I love that stuff. Twists and turns and schemes within schemes. I love doing that.
And I promise I'm still working on my Universal Compendium. It's just I'm my own worst critic. Every time I think I have a finished draft, I sit and look at it and I do it again.
I've been there, done that. Yeah, been there, done that.
Fine tuning.
But other than that, if you head on over to the TTRPG Academy Discord and you just want to hang out and shoot the shit and talk about games, you can always come on over there. We're almost up to 400 people on the Discord.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, we're getting
Good
there.
news. I have an announcement.
You do?
I expect later tonight at 9:00, 7 your time. Boom. My Hell's Bells t-shirt design is up on the Crit Roll shop.
That was the
It
recent
looks
contract you worked
gorgeous.
on.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming, but
Bells Hells.
That's
Bells
awesome.
Hells, yeah. So it is in the Crit Roll shop. You can check it out.
I love what you did with the. Is that gold or bronze?
It's like yes. It's not a metallic ink, but it's supposed to be like a patinaed gold or brass kind of color.
It really looks awesome on that blue.
But it's really cool because there's a bunch of little elements. There's Bertrand Bell's sword up here.
Wait.
There, like up at the top, underneath the right there.
Oh, I see it.
There are some other little elements. A lot of Orum's. Yep, the moons. Orum's tattoo work. So it's
how fun.
Yeah, it was very cool. It's very cool working with them to get this one done. So yeah, very excited.
That's awesome. Now I have to go buy this shirt. Along with the Scanlan one that I want to get still.
Oh, the concert one. That one was fun too. That was That was hey Tortseer, thank you for joining us. The Scanlan one was a lot of fun. That was a reboot of an earlier shirt that they did. The idea wasn't mine, but the design was. But that was awesome because it was just like, okay, Metallica type look here. So. So check that out. Otherwise, that's all I got. So, should we jump? Sharon, what do we, you want to jump us into our topic, tonight?
So today we're going to be talking about both player and character growth in D&D. We're going to be talking about the dynamic characteristics when it comes to creating your character, and also some changes that happen to yourself while playing the game, along with supporting the dynamics of the group, as well as role-playing and how important it is for a campaign. And basically, we got to make sure that all players at the table are working together cohesively to make it a long-lasting and memorable campaign. And, it's okay to have short campaigns too. They could be just as memorable. So we're going to dive into that topic tonight. So, yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad you brought up the short campaign also. Let me start out by asking, what do you guys? I have my idea of what a long campaign is. What do you guys feel a long campaign is? Because I think a lot of people, obviously, people are very familiar with one shots, but I think people have now seen Critical Role and a campaign that can go on for 2 years, and end with a level 20 character, which in my history with the game was not the case. When I was growing up playing, we would have campaigns that would last a year, but it's funny because I have a character now, a warlock, that is level 19. That is the highest level character I've ever had. I've never had a level 20 character. And below that, my next closest was level 15. And then a lot of like 9s, 10s, 11s, 12s. So it's interesting because, you know, when I have played, we've had long campaigns, but not necessarily campaigns that ended, quote unquote, if you will, with level 20 and now the story is over, type of thing. So when I think long campaign, I think 2 years ish, and, you know, level 18, 19, 20, something like that. I'm interested to hear your take. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and it was kind of a little bit enlightening. So
it really was, because with Critical Role, it kind of gave me like a skewed mindset of how long campaigns are. Like, I immediately assumed that, like, oh, you finish D&D when you're at level 20. and you know, it's supposed to last for years. That's the, you know, epitome of a long campaign. And then what's interesting too is that when they did the one shot, they spread it into like multiple sessions. And usually with a one shot, I would think, oh, it's a one and done deal in the afternoon or something. So it's kind of interesting how like the time frames for campaigns can just vary very drastically. And like, to be honest, Jason, I like I was thinking like, oh, when I'm gonna jump into this campaign, I'm gonna be at level 20. I'm gonna be a god in this campaign. I was like, yes, let's rule the world. But no.
It's interesting because I actually find that my favorite levels to play are generally like 7 through 11 or 12. I kind of find that after that, you start getting so powerful, and depending on your class and subclass, there are so many mechanics. I did it again last week, playing my warlock, where I went through 2/3 of the session and forgot that I had 2 attacks around because one of my invocations, like a major fucking mechanic, and I just was like, shit, I've been rolling 1 attack every round. Like, God damn it. So I don't know. I kind of feel, that's just me personally. I was never, I mean, you know, everybody loves leveling up. I love leveling up, but there's a point at which it's, for me, less about chasing the levels and more about now really getting immersed in the story.
Right.
I think when we were kids, the reason I've never had super high level characters is because, you know, hour-long campaigns, either the GM would get bored or we would get bored of our characters, or, I mean, it was so common for us to be like, oh, let's make new characters, where, you know, we just want to play new characters. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, because again, back then, the old man voice again, but back then there was no such thing as remote play. So it was like you had your group of people and you got together every X number of weeks or whatever to play. So it wasn't like, I'm going to play this campaign, but I want to try another character, so I'm going to find some other people. So I think that has changed also. And I think people can now, you know, a lot of people play in multiple games. So I think that kind of puts that on its ear a little bit too. But
well, I think the earliest form of the remote game was correspondence by play that they did in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah,
they'd play through the mail. Which the reason why I wanted to mention that is Barry was talking about developing your dynamic characteristics related to like, so the first 2 bullet points had me thinking, right? Enhance your playing experience by making your character personally invested in what's going on, and consider creating a character that goes along with the theme of the campaign. This kind of boilerplates into the 0 session, And the 0 session is also where you could set the expectation for the length of the campaign, where you can get a feel for everybody's like idea of how long they think the campaign might go. What I think is interesting is the longest campaign I've ever played was maybe about 5 years. My favorite style of campaign is one shots, or maybe like 5 or 6 session series, depending on, the theme that you're trying to get at. And the reason why I kind of feel like the shorter campaigns are better is that I feel like it gives players the opportunity to finally play other things that maybe they would normally not play. And therefore, to Barry's point, every time you play a new type of character, you have to think creatively about that character. So if you can imagine in a 2-year time, somebody playing 5 different types of characters, I mean, that's really good practice, I think, for creative thinking and getting involved with tables and trying to figure out, how they fit in to the table vibe. Unfortunately,
I think that's one of the reasons that we, like I said, it wasn't necessarily boredom. It was just, again, we had our one group, and at a certain point, everybody was like, "Well, I want to try something else," so we just stopped and created something else.
Right.
But could it be just because you're not as invested in that character? Like it doesn't strike like a personal interest within you to maybe want to keep playing that character?
Oh yeah, I think that's definitely fair to say. There have been characters that I have been, yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had that happen after one session with certain characters.
Really?
Yeah.
I finished recently. I finished 4 campaigns of tier 4, so they were on average between 16 and level 19. Tuesday night looks like they're going to hit level 20. I would say Grain Land, you guys are what level are you now, Cher? 13, 12?
I think we're level 13.
Yeah, I think so too. Lucky 13. Age of Empire, I think, is 15 or 16. Waterdeep Adventures, I think they're level 12 or 13. Maybe they're level 13 as well. So I think there's this fear about campaigns sometimes that go too long. Am I letting them level too fast? Are they leveling fast enough? How do I control the adaptation of the arc as they get more powerful? So I think one of the things about campaign length is kind of rooted in the complexity of the arc that you're playing. That always makes me sad. That's always something. That's always something to always keep in mind when you've got a campaign going. You've got to pick up on some of those adaptive skills, make changes and make alterations as the characters age. There is a risk of a campaign going too long, and there's always that risk that a campaign goes too short.
Let me ask you guys a question. I guess this is somewhat related since we're talking about character and player development. What is your guys' take on the whole like upper tier 4 level, player power versus what a DM could do to kind of balance that and still have that feeling of, I could actually die? And or do you feel, when I played World of Warcraft, I enjoyed leveling, and I found that the end game content, after you reached whatever the level cap was for whatever release they had, I lost interest really, really fast once I hit that cap and was doing end game content. And it's weird because I kind of feel the same way with D&D. Like, okay, you hit level 20, so now, to your point, Sharon, like the campaign is done. You finished this, and we have to go create more characters and start over. So what's your guys' take on that?
I'm going to let Cher go first because I have an actual beta take that plays every Monday night, and I want to talk to that point. So
okay.
What are your thoughts, Cher?
Well, I mean, it all depends on scaling with the DM, really, because if you're at level 20, scaling and basically arcing for the story to make it interesting for higher level players. Because if If you're like super OP, like of course you're just gonna get bored and tired and nothing's gonna challenge you anymore. But if you introduce like another arc or a new big bad, then that scales with their power level. Then it becomes more interesting because, you know, they can deal more damage and it's more serious. And plus, you know, they're more invested in that character at that point too, because they're like, oh, you know, I worked so hard on this character. I don't want him to die.
Would you, when you hit level 20, if you were to hit level 20, would you want to continue playing? Or would you feel like, okay, there's no more leveling up, so kind of what's the point?
Well, it depends on where the story can take the character, really. Like, what if we fight the gods themselves or something? Or like, you know, what if we become a deity and like, or we become like power hungry or something, and we decide to do like a conquest? Yeah, sorry.
That I like.
Yeah, like, you know, like maybe like
ultimate power corrupts ultimately.
Yeah. Like, what if your character becomes like a power tripper and then these heroes come after you instead and you become the big bad?
I want to play in one of your campaigns. You need to DM a campaign.
That's longevity, baby.
Jace, what's your take on that?
So we are actually
yeah, see, I actually agree with Fungeon Quest that like I said, even at like 16, 17, 18, it starts to get ridiculous.
Yeah, levels don't mean anything to me. I could build anything that'll challenge you every time.
Yeah.
That's why our Monday night game, we don't level. We don't have levels. We don't have predisposed character classes. We don't have predisposed hit point values that you would expect to roll. Basically, each player wrote a story of what they wanted to be. And then every time we have a milestone, they write their own skill, or they decide if they're a little bit stronger or a little bit smarter. I went back to spell memorization. So spells are a little bit more challenging from the fantasy perspective. And I'm turning the Monday game into a pure narrative game.
Wow, that's really interesting.
We use 5e core, right? There's a 5e core, like I use it like GURPS. I use it as a way to help manage the points of the mechanics that are required to resolve certain interactions within the narration. But this hang up with, you know, I'm level 9, but I'm planning for level 15. That's the least of your concerns. You barely understand your character as it is now, and you're worried about level 15. Number one, I'm not a fan of that. I think it slows players' creativity down. I think it boxes them in to a preconceived notion of what they're trying to be.
Totally agree.
And I think halfway through their thought process, suddenly they have to delve into multi-classing because they're realizing their limitations are too much. Because what they're discovering in the game is I'm a terrifying DM. I'm terrifying. I homebrew everything. There's nothing that you're going to be able to predict. About the only thing you're going to be able to predict is I might leave the session at a cliffhanger just because it just so happens to make it easy from the timing perspective, right? But the reality is I've got so many players worried about their level and what they want to become.
Yeah.
They're not doing enough to decide what they are.
Yeah.
And so the creativity is nerfed. They're hung up on things that don't matter to me, and they think they do matter to me, which is where that throughput and that support aspect of Sharon's notes really come in, because I was floored by what you wrote, Cher, supporting the group. I think that's the most important aspect of this game. Support. I can't stress it enough. I can't focus it as the beacon of hope enough. That is both the group of the player characters, the players themselves, and then the relationship with the narrator. You know, those three things are what defines the opportunity to have a really good campaign.
Yeah, and I think you
potentially a really long campaign too.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think you have to have some pretty, I don't want to say advanced players, but I think you have to have a special kind of player to be able to handle that. And you bring up a really good point about character growth. And I think it also plays into player growth of being able to make this leap and stop that. Okay, what am I going to do at level 12? What am I going to do at level 15? And realize that as the story changes, even though, like, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I'm being groomed for medical school and this and that. And, at
it
level,
totally is like that.
right? And at level 5, you're like, you know what? Fuck medical school. I want to be a rogue instead, and completely
Don't jinx it.
and completely change tack. Even though I think it has to do with we've talked about the 2 basic types of players, which are min-max type mechanic players and narrative players, and you can't do that if you're a min-max type player. I'm a narrative player. I don't give a shit about min-max stuff. I told you I like to try to find the most cockamamie dichotomy of class and race that I can, and see if I can make it work. I mean, obviously, I don't want to nerf myself so bad that it's no fun to play, but I think it's a challenge to try to do that. So I think that, like I said, it brings up an interesting point, which is in that support of the group and the narrative of making that decision to say, you know what, level 13 or 15 or 16 through 20 doesn't really matter that much. I'm going to completely keep what I have, but completely change tack and multi-class into something else, but not, again, even with multi-class, a lot of people approach it from the standpoint of, okay, I'm going to dip 1 level into this just so I could have this and this to support my main character. But maybe making the decision to instead say, okay, I'm going to multi-class into something that is completely narrative driven and is going to fuck me mechanics wise, but it's going to be a lot of fun to play. So I think that's an interesting aspect of that player and character growth. A lot of people would think of that as growth from level 1 to 20. But
Right.
I really like what you've said, Jason, about supporting the narrative and supporting the party. I'm done. That's it.
So, Cher, when you were developing Mira from beginning to where you are now, talk about the different points that you began to shape her characteristics. Like, how was she becoming? Because how you started is not how you are now.
No.
And talk about that journey.
As a person too, but
talk about that journey a little bit.
I definitely want to hear about the second part, because that's what it really comes down to.
So with Mira, I created her as sort of as like a love letter. My character's Keen's decision to start multi-classing into sorcerer was for character-driven reasons, not mechanics. Ooh, yes. And I love all the stuff that she could do. Anyway, so with Mira, the whole idea behind her was it was sort of like a love letter to hope, and I wanted that character to kind of personify that. And like with her in the campaign, it was very kind of naive to start with a character that's based on hope in a sense, because I thought D&D was like, la la la, everything's gonna be fine. It's gonna be easy, We're just gonna be prancing in meadows. It's okay. But
prancing in meadows.
Remind the image that I get in my head for some reason is Cloud Cuckoo Land from the Lego Movie.
I just completely stole that image in Mira's mind, prancing through the meadows.
And this is like my first character, so of course I'm gonna create someone who has that same kind of mindset as well. But I still had that goal in mind of having her being a symbol of hope for the campaign, because like I knew she was going to come across adversity, and when she did, there were certain changes that like I noticed about her that was like, you know what? Maybe it's not all black and white with her. There's a lot of gray in there too. Like it's weird. It's weird that characters change. like I expected her to be just like this super cheerful and very positive person, which she is, but like she's also kind of very like very cautious now, and she tries to think through decisions as best as she can and is very paranoid now. But she still has that goal, that, you know, can do attitude of like, I am going to fight against all odds, and I hope for the best for my people and for my future and for the people that I'm with. She's going to keep on focusing on that, but there are just like little things that are thrown at her that kind of like, you know, she wavers a bit, but she's still staying on course with that. And it's so interesting.
I can tell just by you talking about it, I can tell how passionate you are about this character, and I love it. I just love that. I can tell how invested you are, and that you know, yeah, it's really, yeah.
He is terrifying. Don't kill us. No.
Just the ASMR clarification moment. Unconscious is not death.
She's just sleeping, guys. Don't worry.
She's just taking a little rest while blood slowly coagulates underneath her wounds.
A really long rest.
As the chalk outline starts to appear. I think I told you guys I had one, you know, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I had one character death. It was a player that wanted to change characters, but we didn't want to just, you know, write him out completely. So we killed him, and one of my homebrew magic items can suck somebody's soul. It's a sword, and it can suck somebody's soul into the sword. It's a sentient artifact. So he gets sucked into the sword. So that leaves, there's always ways to kill somebody and leave the door open. You know, that's what's great
so
about
cool.
Yeah, that's what's
I
great
love
about
that.
This. I mean, Jesus, that's the modus operandi of every comic book ever written. It's like, oh, when is that person coming back after they just died?
Yeah, it's fun to have the what if in a campaign. That's what makes it so interesting and engaging.
Yeah.
And then
well, I think really quick, Mara, Mara, see, I fall right to it. Share, like, so being aware of your own arc is a really important thing. Your backstory provided me with so much creative capability based on the way you developed your backstory and the way we were able to discuss with each other in the background of the game with clarification points and all the other things that were helping your backstory evolve. Like, I go back to my notes when Mira was introduced to the group. You're right. You were a naive druid working, working for Ghelfi. You're out at the ruins trying to do some work and archive some notes and do some research for her. And then suddenly you're, part of a group on an airship trying to prevent the world from coming to an end as the 9 seals of the different 9 betrayer gods are slowly being used. I know, I saw that.
That's good. Yeah, Gary. So Gary brings up a good point. I had this character I liked so much, and he died more than once. And I was like, "Oh, it's his cousin, Vigo Valenos III. It is I." Yeah. I got a little bit of shit for that. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. It was such a very quiet beginning, and then it started to just snowball to now where it's like, oh, now she's in these great battles, and oh, now she has to make a safe haven for her people to come back to, and like she has to make sure that it's safe for everyone, her people, to come back, even. And this is not even including like, the material plane for it to be safe. She wants that to be safe too, but now like the burden of her people weighs upon her. Like, it's an honorable burden, and she knows that, but it's crazy. That's why she's so
basically
the moral.
The moral is that you're not really into this character, right?
Oh yeah, no. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
So how have you So if you've explained how the character has grown over 13 levels, how have you grown? You said you changed also.
And that's just 13 levels. And me as a person, like, first time jumping into D&D, having to have this awesome character that I fell in love with, like I wanted to connect with this character too. So like there are certain parts of me, obviously, I don't know if you can tell, that are but even like her backstory is closely connected to me too, because I wanted to make sure that like I have this close connection with this character. I want this person to be real to me in a sense. And you know, I was a very shy person coming into D&D, sweaty palms, you know, the whole 9 yards. And I wasn't very good social-wise, but now I'm doing talk shows and I'm doing a live stream D&D show, and like I'm being very loud and creative with my thoughts and opinions on things, and that's because of D&D, and that's because of great storytelling and a great group. You know?
Yeah. You know, if it wasn't only 36 minutes in, I would say we should just end with that and probably just close out the show for good.
I can stretch it.
Because if there was ever a better synopsis of what this game does for people, I've never heard one. So bravo.
Well, I do have an answer to your question though, Cher, on your notes. The question: problem solving in D&D requires each person to rely on one another. Each person contributes by evaluating and coming up with a creative solution to the situation. Has the creative problem solving of D&D helped you in the real world? I have a player in my Tuesday night game, Saloon's Gift. His character's name is Vonrin, and he posted this week or last week, that during a meeting at work, he rolled a 20. He rolled a D20 to decide an outcome.
And then was promptly fired.
I hope not. Them tickets ain't free.
Wait, I swear I have the lucky feed. Hold on.
Or when you say awesome. Or when you find out that a Harrigan in your group on Wednesday night has the lucky feet, but they're Harrigan. So what they do is they rub their own rabbit's foot whenever they use the lucky feet.
That's awesome. They rub their feet. That's awesome.
To the supporting aspect of everything we were just kind of talking about, the value that Sharon has gotten out of her character from within the group and within her personal life, and this kind of holistic conversation about the affirmations that people feel about the supportive nature of the game as a whole. You know, that is my greatest affirmation as a professional DM, is that everyone feels safe enough to be that creative.
Yeah,
you know, because there's a lot of really I hate using that word a lot. I got to get rid of it. There are stories that get consumed from time to time about how, you know, unsafe tables can be.
Right.
And sometimes those stories represent the 1% of the population, you know, but it can be read by 99% of the eyeballs. So, you know, it's a misinterpretation. But I do know that providing a safe environment is the best way you can support the group. And
absolutely.
When they feel safe, they become more creative. They become more outgoing. They're more confident, you know, more invested in their arc and in their character. You know, so, and that's what helps, you know, professional DMs like me that need that inspiration and that kind of positive affirmation to keep me going. It makes a difference.
How go ahead, and then I have a question. Go ahead, Sharon.
Torch says, our group has made me feel safe enough to risk being vulnerable. Same. And I'm so happy we can provide that environment. Oh, I'm going to cry. No. But I think it's so bananas that you grow with the character. It's like magic in a way. Like I honestly didn't expect that. But I'm happy it did.
That's yeah. I'm not going to screw it up with some kind of cockamamie response to that.
Well, no.
Like I said, no. I mean, that kind of affirmation is just it's wonderful to hear. It really is.
And that's why people keep on jumping back into playing the games even
Exactly.
after their campaigns are done.
Yeah, and you're right. No two games are even close to being the same, and that's the beauty
still
of the game.
Growing.
Yeah. Character arc. Do you guys? I think this is something else that maybe has changed as the game has matured, as DMs have matured, and stories have matured. When we were kids, there really was not. It was, here's the background of my character, and I'm going to play to that story, and it's all on the table. I happen to really like, when I started watching Critical Role, I happen to really like the prospect of you and the DM know what each character's arc is and background and motivation. But I feel that it's really awesome when the rest of the table doesn't necessarily know that. Take Not, for example. When we found out, she's actually a halfling that was turned into a goblin, and she's got a completely different backstory. I mean, that was like, and that's just one example. So I really like that aspect of kind of keeping that hidden, which kind of makes sense, especially since I think it's fair to say that a lot of character groups, it's like, you all meet in a tavern. Okay. You didn't know each other before. So why would you know everything about that person? You wouldn't.
Right.
And I think that can be interesting in evolving that story arc that you thought was going to go in one direction, but maybe goes in another or takes some branches.
Yeah, no. And that's what's interesting too. Like I literally had kind of like a one-track mind with Mayra. I wasn't really sure where she was gonna go, but with the with the help of like a DM who can see the big picture of the story and every little detail, you guys can work together to create like a very great story and a great arc. And it's like, I'm gonna keep on gushing about D&D and fun. I'm sorry. It's so easy to fall into it. It's like a black hole.
Well, it's because it's a cult, and it involves Satan worship.
Oh man, I left my robe at the laundry.
But speaking of, here's a complete tangent. Have you ordered your Hellfire Club T-shirt yet? Because I have to do that.
I've been wanting to do that. Do I have to order it off of Netflix?
It's come on Amazon. Netflix.
No, I just bought a plain black T-shirt and with white ink wrote Hellfire Club on it.
Just write with Sharpie.
And I use the same font. I use the same font as Jason... the cow that says "Eat more chicken." Horribly spelled and just crayon format.
I love how Jason just simplifies and boils everything down. I don't need to buy a T-shirt. Fucking white paint marker.
I'm good. I go to places like Deal Busters to do my T-shirt shopping.
Yeah.
Dollar Thursdays, you can get somebody else's unfortunate size order. You find some of the coolest fucking T-shirts that way.
Wow.
People come up with some of the most creative things, and all I do is rifle through the T-shirts, or I look for electronics. I mean, there's like today I found T-shirts for my kids. I bought 8 T-shirts for $8. Like,
where is this?
I'm down. It's
Today's
called Deal
video
Busters.
Is sponsored by.
Yeah, I know, right?
Sponsored by Lawfully Chaotic, sponsored by Deal Busters.
What's getting really popular lately is that people that order pallets and pallets of rejected Amazon goods, they then open them all and put them out for sale. So,
oh wow,
what's that? Yeah, it's for Melissa. It's for Melissa's donation. Yeah. Are you heading out?
No.
Oh.
See what different things that we got.
Hi.
She is. She's a lunatic. Don't mind her. She's completely insane.
Hey, Callista.
No, and what we did this year is we went to Deal Busters and we bought. Well, Callista bought $50 worth of school supplies to donate to one of our friends / coworkers who works here at the shop. She's one of our receptionists. And teachers don't get enough help, not even from their own districts. So she's a newer teacher.
Mm.
This is her first year as a real full-time, her own classroom. Some like 13 or 14 students, and
fantastic.
she's fully invested. And so we're like, hey, yeah, why not? We'll go over to Deal Busters, and we found crayons and gifts for the treasure chest and composite paper and filler paper and pens and dryer,
awesome.
stuff that, the stuff that retail wise, she knows she's not going to get much help. So, we had an opportunity to head on over there and see what we could find for her. So
this is a whole episode tonight of like good feelings and no animosity. What the hell is going on?
But that's kind of the point of, but that's what happens when you're in a supportive and creative environment, right? If you're super creative with your character, and your group is super supportive, these are the vibes that kind of express out of that reality. But more to your idea of the arc and getting into role playing, back to that question, which I have a hard time remembering what you said, Bri.
What was the question? My question?
You asked.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Quick, Brian, what did you say?
I need a tangent cam
when
I do that. Tangent cam.
Yeah, right.
It's just like blurring horns. Tangent.
No, my question was, in creating a new character with a backstory and a motivation, do you put it all out on the table and everybody at the table knows that, or do you hold something back and use that? Do you hold something back from the rest of the characters at the table and players for that matter, and use that as a way to evolve your own story and reveal it as you go, or allow it to change as you go, a la what a couple of characters did with unknown backgrounds in Critical Role
with Not the Goblin, Not the Brave,
right?
I don't know, Cher, what do you think when you were developing Mira? Did that play into it?
I'm tempted to spill the beans about everything, but I think it's good to be discreet with your character and your story, because then, when that event happens later in the game, there's it's a new switch. There's a new different pace in the game now. It's like, oh, this happened. Oh, you're this, you're that, your skin is actually blue. I don't know. It's fun to have little surprises in the game. I mean, it's fun to be transparent, because then people can be, I guess, more invested and maybe want to ask more questions about why you are the way you are. But it can go hand in hand. But
I think it does help to keep it can help keep the campaign fresh, because speaking beyond just, oh, I'm leveling up, oh, I actually want to do this for other reasons, to find out about my fellow players. And that, back to Jason's point of supporting the party, when those revelations come to light, that may affect other people's character paths, to support that story. So I also agree. I think once they started to realize that, that could be a major narrative tool, I really like the idea of, the DM working with each player on that background, and not necessarily, spilling all that to the other players right away. What are your thoughts, Jason?
Well, I currently have 55 players. Is how many players I currently have. Of the 55 players, I'd say half have wrote extensive backstories, and a quarter of those are heavily invested in their backstory to the point where they understand how it commingles with the arc. Some use the backstory generator that D&D Beyond offers for your character, so it can kind of create something for you in case you just don't feel like you can do it. Which, there's little, in the character sheet, there's ways you can pick certain things about yourself that kind of creates a backstory for you. I think a lot of people are a little terrified of the burden of a backstory, and that could be a cohabited burden between, is the DM gonna let me do this? Do I have to keep track of it? Can't I just be the typical orphan whose orphanage burnt down, and I'm trying to chase the person that burned it down. The person that burned it down is the one that wants to secretly hire us to, to find the dragon. The dragon is actually a polymorph person who's the person that hired us to, track themselves down as a evil plot to get access to a relic that he's not allowed to touch, and they get access to the relic, and then the world, is destroyed. So it's, I can get I understand the backstory burden. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But without it, there's certain points of inspiration that fall away. And I think those backstories and those arcs and all of that are really, really kind of important. Important enough, I think, that it creates opportunity to trigger empathy between the players. And without that empathy, you can't play this game.
Right.
If you come to the table being antagonistic and you versus everyone else, you're gonna have a miserable time. It's not gonna be a fun time for you. It's not what the game is about. When the narrative conversations about PvP, PvE, and us players versus the DM who's trying to actively kill us, that's less than 1% of the 99% of the eyeballs that are out there reading. In reality, most people are family, friends, or strangers just sitting down and practicing the different things that are required to become a long or short-term campaign, depending on how that table's formed. So out of all my players, I use almost 90% of their backstories to tie into the arc. Each of their arcs may potentially close out. I've got one particular player that, I know he's not watching right now, so I can say it. He is running a character that he didn't realize has been touched with the fated curse. And the fated curse is that the only way he can ever know true peace is if he actually completes what the fate has inspired his existence for. So as he moves through the world, certain major points that occur, he physically becomes something else each time. And it affects his memory of how he got there, but the group is aware of him, and it's like just moving through this dynamic workspace and this dynamic world that is constantly changing and ever interacting with his arc as his arc keeps going and going and going. So it's been a real fun one. I wrote this curse up a while ago, and I've always wanted to play it out. So luckily I had the opportunity to. And, practice makes perfect, which perfect doesn't exist. As long as you're practicing, that means you're playing.
I'm curious, since there's so much improvement and development as a person and as a player, one question remains. Does your math get better?
I can't speak to this because I'm really good at simple math, so I could add up fireball damage in like 3 seconds. So
well, before we answer that, this is a really good question, and I have a couple answers for it, and I'd like everybody else's feedback, because this is a quintessential question when it comes to playing the game, because I think sometimes this can add some really fun flavor to a game if it's handled in an adult manner, and if it's handled with the consent of the group, that it's an available tactic that could come out to play. I think you could do a lot of preparatory conversation to make this work very well.
Wait, what are we talking about? To make what work?
As long as the backstory, this pop-up I just had up.
Oh yeah, Gary's. Oh, I thought you were responding to the math question.
No, that's a waste of time.
Yeah, he's just
that's a waste of time.
He's just blindsiding it. It's live, Jason.
I literally have players that will go, "Hey, storyteller, what's 18 plus 3? 21. Hey, storyteller, I don't want to plus 4, 39.
I don't want to disparage anybody, but seriously, when people sit there and adding up, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
So the vernacular here is interesting. Like the idea of someone of nefarious character within the party that may have altruistic or alternative ideas to what they're trying to accomplish within both the arc and the backstory. And I think the most recent and greatest example of it being done very, very well is Archon the Cruel. I think if you look at the way Archon the Cruel participated in the game, and how over time Joe has developed that character, that to me is a very classy way of really presenting that as an opportunity for the group to get involved. Sure, it may have a somewhat negative outcome because of that player's success, but it doesn't destroy the campaign. It doesn't. So, once again, it's that balance of, talk about it in a vague way, make sure people are aware it's possible, but, don't make it so that they're constantly fighting each other over something that's very minor. So, PvP within a party and make it an all evil party and everybody just kicks each other's ass because somehow they think that's fun. That's for other tables. But I do like the way
that's just another version of murder hoboing.
Yeah, and but one of the things that impressed me so much about Archon the Cruel was the way that developed. I thought that was a very anti-hero development that made a lot of sense to me, and it didn't hurt, but it really presented challenges, which I loved.
I think that can be a really, as Gary said, if it's handled well and determined beforehand and thought out, I think it could be a really, really interesting story tool and player and character development tool.
Right.
I agree. I think I mentioned this way early on, but I actually had a player. So I had one of my paid games. It was a group of strangers, except for two guys who were brothers, but group of all strangers, and we've been playing now for about 2 years, same group, and one of the guys had to leave, and for a long time I asked them, do you guys want to replace them? And they were like, no, let's not. I was like, okay. Eventually there was somebody that reached out who really wanted to play, and I discussed it with the players. I'm like, it's up to you guys if you want to add somebody to the table. And it was not a great fit, unfortunately. But there was this in the story. This player made the decision to confront another character, I should say. And actually, it came to a little bit of physical confrontation, which I'm okay with. Physical confrontation between the
within
characters,
the game.
Within the game,
punching. No. Oh, I'm all for that. If somebody wants to beat the shit out of each other at the table, I'm like, go for it. No,
DM becomes referee.
Yeah, and luckily the other player was adept enough to handle it very well. However, it was really interesting because it spilled over out of the character into the player himself, and he got really worked up, not in character. And unfortunately we had to kick him out of the group because it was really fucking uncomfortable as shit.
Yeah.
So, anytime and it could have actually been really cool, but he just wasn't at that level. So I think it is fraught with peril anytime you introduce that. But again, I think an adept enough DM and a familiar enough group of players who are invested enough in role playing, I think it can be a really cool narrative tool.
Well, once again, we can go back to Zero Session and help establish those rules, parameters, and set those expectations to kind of nurture that kind of creativity. The number one question I get on my meetup questions when people want to meet up, or when they're, hey, you have a seat open, I'm ready to start, what do you want me to do? And their number one question every time is, are we restricted on our characters? Every time, are we restricted on our characters? And it really makes me wonder what conversations are going on out there, that those seem to be the most common questions that I'm asked.
Restricted in what way?
Well, you can only run certain lineages, you can't do feats, you can't do this.
Oh, okay. So mechanics wise.
Well, I mean, I don't really differentiate. I think any kind of restriction is dumb. I just think any restriction is dumb.
I understand your view, but I'm asking from the people asking those questions. It sounds like the context is generally rules-based, mechanics-based.
Well, but it's an open-ended question, so it's always hard for me to kind of disseminate the analytic of their question. But yeah, I think it's designed from the narrative that a lot of, there's that word again, that some DMs feel that 5e is too OP on the character subclass, and therefore they've begun to tailor it so it's not. Rather than solve the problems other ways, they're asking players, no, you can't do that, or no, you can't be a tiefling, or no, you can't be this, or no, you can't take that feat, or I don't allow that feature or that subclass. That just saying all that exhausted me. Why would I want to limit that? That means I've got to keep track of it.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
It's just an interesting question that it always seems to start with. And I'll usually say, hey, during our zero session, we'll talk about the character you want to build. But currently, no restrictions. Go for the fun factor, or for the OP, or for the min max, whatever you think is going to provide you with the most amount of fun and play style. And the response is, oh my God, that's amazing. When do we meet? And it's just, once again, it feels affirming, but it also has me concerned sometimes about, what's going on out there when it comes to this game, So
well, and I think maybe that stems from DMs that don't want to deal. So I was like, there was one lineage. Oh, it was one of the tiefling lineages, I think. And I said to Gary, because we're actually starting a new campaign that he's DMing. I'm like, can I do this? And he's like, it's got flying at first level. That might be a little a little hard to deal with. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But for the most part, I agree. It's a zero session discussion, and what is your impetus for wanting, your motivation for wanting to do this? I mean, I rarely place limits. Also, I'm like, here's the source books that we're using, which is pretty much all of them, and just talk to me about what you're thinking of. One thing I tell people is, like, I generally say, and this may be bad, in the inclusivity arena. No, I say try not to be a centaur, okay? Only because you're gonna fucking have to wait outside of every goddamn building that people go into, and it's gonna, and some DMs might want to make that build that into the story.
What's funny that you say that? I want to get Sharon's take on this. The moment you said centaur, I was like, oh, I want to build a city for centaurs only. I want to create a city where they don't allow other people in. They just only allow centaurs in.
Okay, if that's a major part of your story, then
nah, I just made it up. I think it'd be fun to fuck with people. So
what if it's an underground city and like
they're all mole people? Only mole people share.
Well, no, because hear me out. Because in Greek mythology, minotaurs, when they stomp the ground, the Greeks equated it to them thinking that it was the earthquakes. The earthquakes are the minotaurs being angry and stomping. So wouldn't it be cool in D&D if there was an underground minotaur city and the ground is just constantly shaking, and that's when when it gets even deeper and louder, that's when you're on top of the city or something.
See, my impetus is strictly because, like I said, anytime it's close quarters or a tavern or something, or a passage, okay, well, you can't fit, so you're gonna have to wait outside.
Yeah, that gloomy old barkeeper. Oi, keep your fucking whole shit outside of me tavern.
Exactly. I'm not cleaning up shit off my floor, so fucking get out.
Bone. I know. Yeah. But no, I also get the point of view, right? I mean, it can be hard having a party. Okay, so my nightmare, Cher and Brian, my nightmare. This is my nightmare. You'll love this. An entire party of Kenku.
All right, guys.
That is legitimate nightmare fuel for me.
Yeah. See, that's what I mean. That's the only time that when I feel that it will impede the progress of the game and the story, then that's where I'll put limitations. I don't want to have to constantly split the party because one guy can't fit inside of a door, because then you've got the party splitting thing, which sometimes is fun, but most of the time half the group is sitting there waiting for the other half to do their shit, and it can be very boring. So that's the only limitation that I would place on that. But otherwise, I totally agree with you with session 0. I mean, I just created a pretty convoluted character, and I talked through it with Gary, and he allowed me to do it, and we'll see how it works. It's probably going to fail miserably, but then I'll work with it in the story, you know?
So is a group of Kenku, are they considered a murder? Because a flock of ravens, that's what they're called. So
A murder of Kenku? I don't know.
well, no, because then that means it's gonna murder your campaign.
Oh,
All I
wait,
can smell-
Laura's making the announcement.
What announcement?
Guys,
Hold on.
The shirt?
that was a really bad joke.
Yeah, I thought it was a great joke, but Brian's caught up in the fact that
I'm sorry,
you're probably
Laura just
you're promoting the
Yeah.
shirt.
yeah, Laura just announced the shirt and yeah,
Chat and
thanks,
listeners,
Laura.
I hope you
Thanks,
enjoyed
Laura.
that really terrible joke.
What's that?
All
Wait.
I can tell you, Cher, is
I missed that.
the only thing on my shoes is a bunch of Kenku shit. A flock of Kenku, a murder of Kenku. I don't know what I could barely pronounce the name.
But if there's two at a table,
You know-
that's good luck,
You know
right?
what that reminds me of? Do you remember in Nemo the seagulls? Mine. That's
Yeah.
what that reminds me of.
All right,
Oh my
so
God.
I got to
Yeah,
show you guys something
I
really
think-
cool before we wrap up. Something
I think we've
really cool.
digressed, and it would.
I want to show. I want to. Give me one moment. Give me one moment. Give
Okay.
me one. Give me.
Sorry, I got distracted.
Nah, I get it.
It's okay. You
Yeah.
missed a terrible joke.
Yeah.
That's true. It's true. It was terribly funny, is what it was. So, see that?
Oh, see, that kind
Yeah.
of looks like my guy from the beginning.
I
That's
know.
what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's
I took the image you shared with us, and then I ran it through my AI generator for
Shut
a
up.
series of variations, and that's what I got at the end of it.
That's cool.
okay.
And-
Now here I'm going to sound like a real
But really-
old fart, but
really
what is
quick
this
before-
AI generator?
Okay, so before we go down there, because I thought this would be a really fun thing to share. So let's talk about this for a moment, because this is what I'm going to use this for.
Crows.
Yeah, a group of parrots are a party. Crows are a murder. They're kind of both. Maybe
Murder
a murder
party.
party. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
If yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. That was
That's fucking
brilliant.
hilarious.
Exactly what was in my mind as Sharon was telling that joke. It was there. It
Murder
was there.
party.
But this is basically a primordial earth elemental that's going to be in one of my games.
That's
No.
And so what Midjourney is, it is a Discord AI art bot that you join their Discord, and for your subscriptions, it's totally up to you. You can either use their free method, which lasts for only 25 attempts, or you can parse it out.
Mhm.
And it uses copyright free elements on the World Wide Web, databases,
Jesus.
open source artwork. It looks at tens and hundreds of millions of copyright free and
Unbelievable.
open source stuff. Here's what it bases it on. It bases it on a simple text type in description that you gave it. So
Wow.
in this case, let me tell you what I put in for this one, so you have a good idea of what I typed in. Give me one moment. Where's
I'm
it?
just
Okay.
looking at the lighting and
And the only reason I ask is because in one of my other groups, a couple of the people started using this, and this must be a relatively new thing because now I've heard of it.
It's hit. Yeah, it went full stride about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and it's been very
Okay,
popular.
that's why I'm
because
just hearing about
it
it.
is by far the most user friendly and most intuitive version of the AI bots out there when it comes to art. But this is what I wrote. I went and I took the URL link of the image that shared with us.
Mhm.
And then I inserted that at the beginning. At the end of it, I weighted it a number 3, which tells it to process the request more towards the origination of the image and
Mhm.
to take my descriptions as lesser weights.
Okay.
So my main description was a full body character, hill giant, destroys a large medieval fantasy city with onlookers are running away, comma, Unreal Image theme, and then I set my aspect ratio to 3:2 for photo sizing.
Jesus.
Yeah,
So
these
that's what
people
I-
aren't running away. They're just staring. They're gonna get squashed.
Yeah, probably, but that's kind of the whole point. So
Yeah, but the fact that it, she's. Could you imagine if D&D Beyond had that kind of fucking search algorithm?
Dude.
I mean, and
Unstoppable.
That's incredible.
basically I can get up to 200 images per month for $10.
Yeah. Wow.
For 10?
For 10
Wow.
bucks. And I'm a very low budget creator. I am very good at writing my narratives and speaking my narratives. I am tone deaf. I am spatially visualization deaf. I don't know the difference between ink, charcoal, and oil painting other than spelling. I can't paint a mini to save my ass. If you asked me to build a model, I would say, okay, here's the legs, the chest, the head, the arms. There, I built you a model. I don't know how to do any of those things. But what I'm really good at is taking really, really intuitive software and learn how it works. I'm
That's
really
cool.
good at that. So for $10 a month now, I can create immersive art to help my players visualize what they're seeing during my narratives.
That's really
Now,
awesome.
that's what I'm using it for. I don't necessarily believe that I should then be allowed to take this and try to sell it as unique art.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
some
no,
people
no.
do, right? So
Yeah.
this is born out of the NFT world.
Yeah.
Right? We're now in this new kind of cultural conversation
Mhm.
about the professional artists,
Yep.
right? And then the AI bots that are competing with that space.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in between is what's going on, right? The space in between. Now, what's interesting is I can take that exact URL, that exact verbiage, and reprocess it. It'll look nothing like this. It'll look like something totally different. So this image that you're seeing can never be. Give me one moment. That is a great idea.
No, don't.
You know we have to now.
Slash imagine.
He already created nightmare fuel for
we
our
should have
campaign.
ended. We should have ended the
Yeah.
show 7 minutes
Cut
Too
the
late,
tape
too
now.
late.
No, I want to see this now. I want to
So
see
slash
Murder.
imagine.
No.
Kenku.
I brought this upon myself.
You did. This is all on you.
Oh no, I can't do it because they don't allow words like murder.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't. Yeah,
jeez.
they have a limitation on like,
Homicide.
death, dead, murder, stuff like that. They don't allow it as part of their algorithm.
Other
Because
it goes
personal
It
violence.
goes and it'll go and touch websites that may be
Yeah.
banned.
Gotcha,
So that's why they
okay.
don't do it.
Probably a good thing,
Oh,
but
that's
that's
funny.
fine.
Yeah.
Although I will show you, so I really want to
Good
show you
idea,
this
though.
one because this one's pretty cool.
All right, let's do
This-
one more.
Yeah, one more, and I'll show you how it breaks down the variations so you can get a feel for that. I'm creating a primordial air elemental as well, but I'm giving it more of a feminine figure. So let me remove that. Let me go to my share screen. Stop screen, share. You're right. We need like a production person. This would be so much
Yeah.
easier.
I know.
We're
We're working on
Where'd
it.
it go? Yeah, I know, right? I'll use my window this time just because it'll be a lot easier if I use my window. So yeah, there we go. So there we go. Thank you.
Ooh.
So what I
That's
did
cool.
with this one,
I love how they do the lighting in this.
Mhm.
and that was based. So my
Nice.
description for this one, which was a lot of fun to just do the description. My description for this one was character design, cloud giant, mist, beautiful woman, photorealistic, octane render, Unreal Engine, hyper detailed, volumetric lighting with an aspect ratio of 10:16. And now what I can do that it created 4 variations for me, I will then pick one of the variations to do another variant. And then
Mhm.
I can keep going down the rabbit hole of variation. But once again, if you copy paste what I put in, it'll look
Mhm.
nothing like this. It'll look like something else. So
That's cool.
literally these 4 panels are unique. It'll never, ever, ever look like this again, other than the origination of those 4 panels.
Really, very
Yeah.
cool.
You know, and it's nutty. It's nutty how that works.
That's
It's
awesome.
nutty.
Very awesome.
Oh, okay. Lovely Torchseer sent a beautiful image. I gotta send this to you guys.
All right,
Hold
one
on.
more image share,
One
and then
more.
we gotta close this out.
It's worth it. It will tie
Okay.
everything together beautifully.
Go for it.
Okay, hold on.
Are you putting it in Discord?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in Discord right now. It will be a great finisher to tonight's episode.
Uh-oh.
Better
Is
be
it a bunch
after
of
this
is it a
build-up.
bunch of Kenku murdering an old man?
Okay, hold on. One moment, please.
Funny.
Okay.
I think. What are you doing, Cher?
I am creating mayhem. Okay. It will tie everything together.
Hold on. All right, let me get this up here. Oh
This
my
will
god.
bring it to a great close.
All right,
All
hold
right,
on.
Torch. All right, Torch.
Here we go. Where is it?
You know what? I am going to steal
My joke
that.
has come to life.
I'm going to steal that bottom right hand one because that one on the
Hold
left
on.
looks like a cardinal. But yeah, there's.
Wait. There we go.
There it is.
A murder of crows. Ridiculous.
There you go, Matt. Murder of Kenkus. Love it.
Oh,
Now,
oh.
like it's like dogs playing Oh God. Okay. Well, on that note.
Wait,
Oh,
because this I know you're going to appreciate, and I really need to show this to you, because this is the other end of the spectrum that I think is really interesting on how to use this. Window. I prefer Windows.
Thank you, Torch. That was a gem.
Ooh.
So this is the emblem of the cult known as the Murky Eye. And once again, that was the AI algorithm that did that. There's no way I could do that on my own. I know I can't.
Yeah.
No matter how hard I practice, if I spent countless hours trying to obtain that level of creativity, I just couldn't do it.
That's
but
awesome.
Yet I knew how it all worked, and that's why I did it that way, because it's the best way for me to be able to find what I was looking for.
Well, even as an artist, if I need something on the fly for one of my campaigns, I can't fucking do something like that in 30 seconds to show my players. So that tool is really awesome. We'll share that.
What I'd love to do for our thank you, mission accomplished for sure. What I'd love to do for our next session, if you guys are okay with that, while we work on some other projects. I have been in contact with Bandit Camp, and we will be setting something up with that. But what I'd love for each one of us to do for our next one, so that we can give Cher a break from her notes next week, I want each of us to go to Kickstarter and pick our favorite Kickstarter, and we'll present it as a topic.
Cool. Love it.
Because I think that'll really help people understand that it's just not D&D sometimes.
Favorite current Kickstarter.
Yeah, current Kickstarter. Correct.
Okay.
Like peruse it.
Yeah.
Pick
Love
one.
it.
And let's talk about it next week, because it'll lead us into, I think, our next series of shows, which are going to be about creators.
Yes.
Whether it's software, a person, or however, whether it's Bandit Camp or other DMs or GMs, I think this will kick off our kind of beginning of that topic, of that, that look-see into that world.
Love it. Excellent. And yes, we are, all right. We will roll these to close out. I got a new die, my heavy metal copper die. See if
that's because it's weighted. He must have won 3 times in a row.
18.
Okay, well, I dropped one.
18.
18.
Ooh, what'd you get?
I got a 3.
All right,
roll
off.
Rollies, Bri.
Oh shit! Now I got an 8.
19.
Woo!
Baby.
All right, go for it.
So, what we learned today, everybody? Math sucks. Characters have to have backstories.
And ravens
Empathy
are
is
murderous
important
bastard.
as long as you empathize the way I want you to. And a murder of crows is my nightmare fuel. Other than that, everyone, Be safe. Be
One sec. Hold on. Do have one announcement. We will be taking a break next week. So we will. Yes, okay. I'm on vacation next week. Okay. So we will be back in 2 weeks. But to Jason's point, we are working on having more content creators on and getting into some deeper conversations with other creators. So
I just realized before I sign off, share. Where can they find you?
You can find me here at Instagram at BarryBot, and you could also catch me on Saturdays at twitch.tv/the D&D Club for the Graying Lance campaign. We are live from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time, where I play a druid Kalistar named Mayra. Yes.
Ryan, where can we find you?
I'm here in my office in Chicago.
You asshole.
Linktree/rpgandco.com. Best place to find me is Instagram, same rpgandco.com.
And storyteller at the TTRPG Academy. You can find my LinkedIn over there, or my Linktree over there. I'm on LinkedIn as well if you want to go see my 25 years of IT profession. Otherwise, I'm going to sign this off with be safe, be kind, play a game. It's good for your mental health. See y'all in a couple weeks. Bye.